Hey guys, it's Tehi. Let's little delayed, but let's talk about some of these PTR bosses that occurred about a week and a half ago now. Again, the first three bosses were not tested on heroic; they were tested on normal, as was everything. But Demencius, the last boss. We're not going to talk about the first three bosses just because normal is whatever to me. I don't really care about normal. Heroic is week one, what we actually care about. I did watch the footage on the first three bosses. Nothing spectacular really stood out, but those will be covered once again once the actual heroic testing occurs, which they still have not said when is going to be. This is going to about to be the week of July 7th, and we expect mythic testing to happen Thursday and Friday, the 10th and 11th this week. So we're going to get a lot more stuff coming out. I am going to make some videos going over the mythic changes of these fights that will all be out for Thursday and Friday for those bosses. We'll see if they make an announcement about the PTR testing that's going to happen this week. So just keep an eye out for that, and I will make my videos accordingly. So anyways, so this is one of the bosses that when I made the pre-PTR testing video, I had no idea what this was gonna look like. But this is what it ended up looking like. So essentially these little triangles that I have set up here are crystals that are in approximately halfway of the room. One of the weird things about this boss fight is like everything back here, like this boss room is massive, but it just doesn't need to be. Like this entire area doesn't exist. You don't care about it. At least not for heroic. Maybe on mythic something's going to happen, but I kind of find it difficult with how heroic went that it's going to be worth anything. But essentially, there's going to be 6 lanes, and each lane has their own crystal, and the center of the crystal has this blue line that comes out towards it. And you're going to spawn walls that the boss puts a debuff on players. Those shoot out walls to you, and you're going to start making walls. So what happens here is you get selected as a player. You get hit from the boss, it shoots out this wall, and it spawns this wall. There's these little teal beams that are coming out of the crystals. And what happens when you put a wall in front of the crystal, because you can only put them in front of the crystals, which is why there's 6 lanes, this blue line is going to grow. And as you keep stacking more walls to it, this line is going to grow. If you get 6 walls in a row stacked up, it's a wipe. You just die. Boss gets very cranky, and just kills everybody. So that's basically the number one thing you do not want to do here is you do not want to make 6 walls in a row where you're going to wipe. The other thing you don't want to do is you want to do your best to try not to put every single person in one lane to create a bunch of walls. So let's say you have X amount of players all in one lane, all have the debuff, and they're all going to spawn walls here. Well, all 4 of these players are going to get 4 stacks of the dot and probably going to die. So that's kind of a no-no that you don't want to do. You want to spread people out so that there's plenty of space for everybody. So there's, maybe 2 walls at the most made per lane. And kind of a nutshell, that's it. And then when you make walls, you also have to break them. So after 2 sets of making walls, so it's going to be make walls again, then it's going to be break walls. So you have to make 2 sets of walls, which is, how many walls you make is dependent off raid size, before you can start breaking some of them back down. It's 1 person breaks 1 wall. So if you put 2 people in the same lane that both are capable of breaking walls, and how you know you're breaking walls is there's going to be like this purple void line that points backwards, kind of like it's trying to grip you in, but it's obviously pushing you backwards. As like the visual icon. There's also a debuff that's going to go on you. But so like putting 2 players here would break 2 walls, theoretically. There was some buggy stuff happening on PTR, but I'm fairly certain that's how it's supposed to work, which is going to reset. And that's kind of the entire fight. There is this giant circle mechanic that comes out on people that you just have to spread out with. Nothing too difficult. And then tanks for, basically every single person I saw doing this fight were kind of off in a corner doing their own thing. They weren't really a part of the fight. Tanks do spawn walls. Immunities do stop walls from being made. So prop paladins for sure. I do not know if this is like a vampiric blood plus AMS blood decay situation, where if you are able to not have your AMS shield be broken, it's just going to basically immune the wall from ever forming in the first place. But tanks do make their own walls. Some of the strategy I saw, majority of tanks were over here on their own within like their own lane. And then some raid teams would, let me go copy one of these walls real quick, would essentially focus on, let's say, these 4 lanes over here. Their tanks would take care of this one, and then they would just always leave one open for as long as they could. And that was kind of it. That was the fight in a nutshell. There was quite a bit of dot damage going out, so it's a huge priority heal fight for your healers. Outside of that, this boss fight didn't last more than 3 minutes on any kill that I saw. So obviously super undertuned for raid testing. They wanted to test, a very simple mechanic boss out that also packs a punch, but also, didn't want to make it too grueling at the same time. My initial thoughts when I first watched this was this fight kind of stinks. But the more I saw it, the more I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense. I get it. Not the most fun patchwork boss we're ever going to have unless it's an absolute heater on Mythic. But not super impressive. The other things that I want to touch on is the Dungeon Journal feels very incomplete. When I look at the abilities, there just seems like there's things lacking. There's some things that were happening in PTR testing that I can't find in the Dungeon Journal, which I find kind of bizarre. It's a single target fight. It's going to take a lot of coordination to where you do and do not break walls, where you make walls, where you don't make walls. It's probably just going to be like put, a marker in every single lane, and it's just going to be a word that signs one of your players like, hey, go to purple, go break purple, something along those lines. Is what I assume it's going to be to make it super, super easy. You constantly want to stay stacked as a raid to help your healers, especially once you break a wall or make a wall. Is a lot of damage that comes with that. Mobile classes and classes that have a lot of personals are going to be good. So like a mage, for example, they'll have a lot of survivability on this fight because anytime they get a mechanic, they just use one of their 3, 4, 5 defensives and they're going to be okay. And there was a weird overlap happening in PTR testing where essentially you could be a player who breaks a wall, right? And then immediately upon breaking a wall, you would get the debuff to go create a new one. Don't know if that's intended or not. I wouldn't put it past Blizzard to make it intended, but that was really the only crazy thing from this. Fight looks incredibly simple. The only other thing to touch on is there were different colored walls. At first I thought it was like, oh, they're trying to make it so like every other wall is a different color, but that's definitely not the case. But again, since the Dungeon Journal isn't like fully made, I can't really tell how they spawn differently from one another, what one does versus what another one doesn't do. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure there's going to be, things to go catch, like shards of a wall that breaks to go catch or something along those lines. That could be affiliated with it. Maybe more raid-wide damage, so it's going to force decision making to be like, oh, we don't want to blow up like the dark navy blue walls. We want to break one of the light blue walls instead. Something along those lines. I'm not sure, but either one of those I could see as very viable options. So thanks for watching, guys. There'll be more follow-ups of the other heroic PTR bosses that I made. See what I got wrong, see what I got right. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.